Imagine sitting at a dinner table you've known your whole life. Same chairs, same smells, same picture frames on the wall. And suddenly realizing you don't know the people sitting across from you at all. Imagine someone smiling at you while quietly gutting your future, as if your dreams were nothing more than loose change they could scoop up when needed. That's the night my entire childhood, my trust, and everything I believed about family cracked straight down the middle. My name is Camila, and if you had asked me a year ago what my family was like, I would have given you the standard answer. We're normal. Not perfect, not broken, just ordinary. A house in a quiet suburb, trimmed lawns, the kind of neighborhood where you hear sprinklers more often than arguments. But looking back now, the signs were always there. Little fractures disguised as routines. Patterns so subtle I mistook them for love. The oldest fracture, the one I should have noticed sooner, was my sister, Lauren. Lauren was 10 years older, and in our home, that gap might as well have been a throne. She wasn't just the favorite, she was the sun everything revolved around. Her photos decorated the hallway from floor to ceiling. Her achievements were the soundtrack at every dinner table conversation, and every decision my parents ever made seemed to bend in whatever direction made her life easiest. I learned early how to make myself small. Let your sister go first, my mom would say. You're young, honey, you have time, my dad would add. And eventually, they didn't even need to say it. I stepped back automatically. I grew up mistaking that shrinking for maturity, for kindness, for being a good daughter. It wasn't until the night everything exploded that I understood the truth. Shrinking wasn't kindness. It was conditioning. By the time high school ended, I had one thing. Just one, that felt like mine. My college fund. My parents had talked about it for years, how they'd started saving when I was little, how they wanted me to have options, opportunities, a different life. Even when money got tight, they assured me that fund was untouchable. Those promises became my escape hatch, my path out of Lauren's shadow. But life twisted differently than I imagined. I wasn't able to start college right away. I took a job downtown in a tiny office, filing papers, answering phones, walking to the bus each morning with a cup of coffee cooling in my hand. I told myself it was temporary, just 1 year. One pause before everything clicked into place. I didn't know the pause was permanent, that the future I was saving for had already been stolen. The night that truth surfaced started like any regular family dinner. Roasted chicken, quiet clinking silverware, Lauren smiling like she always did, like the room belonged to her. Then my mother looked at me across the table. No hesitation, no softening, just a calm, almost rehearsed voice. We used your college fund for Lauren's IVF. No apology, no regret, not even a flicker of discomfort. Lauren smiled, that same patronizing tilt of her head. She said, "You'll understand someday," as if I were a child who'd catch up eventually. My father didn't defend me. He didn't say a word. He just adjusted the silverware like the arrangement of forks mattered more than my entire future evaporating in front of me. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that the truth didn't just hurt? It rewrote your entire life? That's what happened to me. One moment, I believed my family had my back. The next, I realized they'd been standing behind me only to take what I never knew I needed to protect. And the worst part? They acted like I should have thanked them for it. Let me show you what happened the day everything cracked open. That night, after dinner, I couldn't sleep. My mother's calm voice kept replaying in my mind, like an echo in an empty house. We used your fund for your sister. No guilt, no hesitation, as if she'd simply borrowed a sweater from my closet. I kept staring at the ceiling, thinking maybe I had misunderstood something, anything. Families make mistakes. Families talk through things. Maybe that was what this was. A misunderstanding. Nothing more. But that hope died the next morning. During my lunch break at work, I opened my online banking, expecting to see at least something left, even half, even a quarter, something I could rebuild from. Instead, zero. A clean, unapologetic zero. It felt like the ground slid out from under me. For a few long seconds, I just sat there, staring at the screen as if blinking would make the numbers change. But the reality stayed the same. The account that I had been promised my whole life was empty. stripped clean. And worse, there was a notification. A sharp drop in my credit score, a loan I had never applied for, a signature I never wrote, a debt in my name that I didn't even know existed. My chest went cold. Someone had used my identity, my information, my future, quietly, confidently, as if they were sure I'd never check, as if I didn't matter enough to notice. And I hated that they were almost right. That evening, I went home and asked my mother about it. Not angrily, not accusingly, just confused, scared, hoping she'd deny it, hoping she'd say it was a mistake. She didn't even turn around all the way when she answered. Camila, stop making a big deal out of this. We did what we had to. Lauren needed us. There it was again. That sentence, that tone, that unquestioned loyalty to one child, but never me. For Lauren, I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady even as my heart was slamming against my ribs. My mother nodded like that explained everything. Before I could respond, Lauren walked into the kitchen holding a mug of tea she wasn't even drinking. Oh, please don't start crying about this. You're young. You can start over. Some things are more important than college. Before I tell you what happened next, ask yourself one question. What would you do if the people you trusted most used your name to build their dreams and left you with the debt? Not strangers, not scammers, your own family. What I discovered next didn't just break my trust, it shattered the last piece of innocence I was still holding on to. The morning after confronting my parents, I woke up with a strange heaviness in my chest. Not sadness, not panic, but a kind of numb clarity. It felt like my whole life had been rearranged overnight, like someone had walked into my memories and flipped all the lights on, showing me corners I'd never dared to look at before. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the folder of documents lying on my desk. Signatures that weren't mine. Transactions I never approved. Payments linked to procedures I wasn't even told about. And the worst part wasn't that they'd taken my money. The worst part was how normal it seemed to them. At work, I kept replaying everything my mother had said, her voice calm as if stealing a future could be softened with a gentle tone. You'll understand someday. That was the line she always used, a sentence that wasn't meant to comfort, but to silence me, a reminder of my place. I spent the next hour scrolling through my credit report again, just to be sure I hadn't imagined it. But the numbers didn't lie. The account was empty. The loan existed. And my name, my identity, had been used without hesitation. When my coworker Jade walked by my desk, she paused. Cam, you look like you haven't slept in a week. I handed her my phone silently. She stared at the screen for a long moment, her eyebrows slowly lifting in disbelief. Camila, this wasn't a mistake. Someone did this. Someone close. I swallowed hard. I know. She leaned against my desk, lowering her voice. And you can't keep pretending it'll fix itself. People who cross a boundary once will cross 10 more if you let them. Her words hit harder than she probably intended, because I knew she was right. My family had been doing versions of this all my life, taking the first choice, the first opportunity, the first slice of anything that mattered. I was always the one who adjusted, compromised, waited. But this time, they hadn't taken a toy or a room or a chance. They had taken my future. That evening, after work, I sat at my tiny kitchen table with a cup of tea that had gone cold before I even tasted it. I opened my laptop and pulled every scrap of financial information I could find. Statements, emails, notifications, payment receipts. I created a folder labeled Truth because calling it anything else felt dishonest. The deeper I dug, What if I told you that the truth you're about to hear wasn't whispered, argued, or confessed, but exposed in a cold white room where lies had nowhere to hide. What if the people who broke you were finally forced to face the one truth they could never control? Stay with me, because what happened next flipped my entire family upside down. The next day felt unreal, as if the world around me had dimmed while the truth I held in my hands burned brighter with every minute. I arrived outside the clinic early, sitting in my car with the engine off, listening to the ticking of the cooling metal. For the first time, I wasn't here as a spectator in my own life. I was here to reclaim something that had been stolen long before I realized it was even mine. One by one, my family arrived like pieces of a puzzle forced together. Lauren stepped out first, wearing a coat too expensive for someone supposedly struggling. Mark trailed behind her, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on the pavement. My parents came last, my mother with her tight jaw, my father with his practiced silence. No one greeted me. No one looked at me. It was as if standing near me required acknowledging what they'd done. Inside the clinic, the air smelled like disinfectant and lavender, two scents battling for dominance. The receptionist guided us to a small consultation room with soft lamps and chairs arranged in a circle that looked far too gentle for the storm sitting inside each of us. Lauren slipped into her chair with an annoyed huff. "I still don't get why we're here," she muttered. "You will," I said, steady but cold. "Just wait." My mother leaned forward. "Camila, if this is another attempt to guilt us—" "It's not about guilt. It's about truth." Right on cue, the door opened and Dr. Patel entered, calm, composed, and carrying the kind of quiet authority that wrapped the entire room in stillness. Lauren instantly straightened, smoothing her hair like she was preparing for an interview. "Thank you all for coming," the doctor began gently. "I understand there has been confusion regarding the decisions made during treatment." Lauren flashed her best fake smile. "Yes, my family seems to think this is all some misunderstanding." "It is," my mom added quickly. "Camila just—" Dr. Patel lifted a hand. "Let's speak clearly so no one leaves confused." My heart thudded. This was the moment everything hinged on. "Lauren," the doctor continued, "when you began treatment here, you were informed clearly that your medical results were normal." My mother's head snapped up. "What? Normal? Then why did you—" The doctor continued, patient but firm. "The fertility challenges did not come from Lauren's side." Silence exploded into the room like a grenade. Lauren froze. Mark closed his eyes. My father stiffened. My mother whispered, "Then why did you—" "Because she requested it. Lauren asked us to present the situation as her problem. She did not want anyone, including her husband or her family, to know the truth." The days after the confrontation didn't explode into chaos the way I used to imagine. There were no slammed doors, no screaming matches echoing down hallways, no dramatic pleas for forgiveness. Instead, everything settled. Slowly, like dust floating through a room after something heavy has finally fallen apart. Quiet. Unavoidable. Real. I didn't rush to repair anything. I didn't pick up calls to keep the peace. For the first time in my life, I allowed silence to do the talking for me. Lauren called once. I let it ring until it stopped. Mom tried twice. I stared at the screen, let both go to voicemail, and put my phone face down. Dad didn't call. He sent a short message. "We're fixing the loan. It will be resolved soon." It wasn't an apology, but it was an admission, and that was more than I ever expected. Mark surprised me the most. He didn't call to defend Lauren. He didn't try to explain himself. He didn't blame anyone. He simply wrote, "I'm sorry for the part I played. I should have spoken up sooner." It was strange how honesty looked. Small, simple, and carrying more weight than all the excuses I'd heard for years. Meanwhile, Mom and Lauren were left to face the mess they created. Without my college fund propping up the treatments that Lauren insisted were her issue, The financial pressure landed exactly where it should have been all along, on the two people who had engineered every lie. Lauren's glossy confidence began to crack. Her daily social media updates, full of perfect smiles and inspirational quotes, suddenly vanished. No more photos from clinics, no more vague captions about new chances. Everything went silent. And for someone like her, silence was the loudest confession. Mom changed too. She spoke less, moved more carefully, like someone who finally realized that control is not the same as love. The tone in her messages shifted, less commanding, more cautious. But caution isn't the same as change. And guilt arriving late is still guilt, not forgiveness. I used that quiet to rebuild. I moved into a small apartment closer to downtown, a place with creaky floors and paint chipping near the windows, but with sunlight that warmed the whole room in the mornings. I bought a cheap desk from a thrift store and pushed it against the window so the light fell directly across the pages of my college applications. Every night, I worked through essays, deadlines, documents, piece by piece, reclaiming a future that someone else tried to spend for me.